All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the October 26th planning committee meeting. Van Loer chair. And we have a pretty good agenda today, so we'll get started right away. First item on the agenda is a couple of items from the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism with Scott. You want to come up or you want to just stay where you are? We can stay where we are. As long as we can hear you and they can hear you on. Oh, we can go there. Let's see. Come on, here's nice. Okay, the first item is for claim November 26th, 2022, small business Saturday, and we have the proclamation in the packet electronically. Short and sweet.
Pretty short and sweet, same thing we've done every year. We ask you to do it so we can celebrate the day, share the information. This always also precedes, it follows the kickoff for Shop Wyoming events. Well, we'll do that again this year. It's like our 12th or 13th year, so which I guess Cheryl down the road that can we come here in February to do the drawing.
Personally, I would always be against.
Okay. Does the committee agree?
Yeah. So the bills are Super Bowl this year. And,
That would be super, if someone would send that to. Right, we're gonna change up the $25,000 insurance, we're gonna do. I have to decide if it's the first, the opening kickoff returns a touchdown, or the second half returns kickoff, returns a touchdown. If I can pick one or two, rather than needed. Remember, it was 5 takeaways from the ASU.
Oh.
It was too complicated, so we're gonna go back to.
all right, yeah, that's better. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll call this resolution or proclamation in our November board meeting, right? Okay. I assume that one of you will attend.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any quick, we need to have a resolution. Yeah, that's it. Yes. All right. Would someone care to make a motion that is claim November 26th. Into as the small business Saturday. You know, Vanessa. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next item is your report on the Lynchburg Arts and Crafts promotion.
Right, yeah, all right, Eric, and I just wanted, while you're all here, I wanted to introduce Lindsay Beaumont. She's our new member services coordinator. Some of you have met her already in person, but thought we'd bring her over and show her what this is about. Let her say, so you can say hi to her, I won't make her speak. She's terrified of me.
Lindsay
Lindsay. Yes.
Beaumont. BEAUM.
M-O-N-T.
Got it.
Like a beautiful mountain, right? She's a Cat Town native, so I think Joe probably knows her father, Bill.
You got someone good in your office,
Good, thank you.
naturally.
Thank you, Joe. Just taking another dinner.
There's someone from Cat Town. So it's fine.
Or the,
I'll bring it over there.
Thank you. And in your package, you also have an email. The details of the marketing promotion.
Yeah, so we wanted to come here today, and I know Jackie's going to speak about the Arts and Crafts momentarily, but wanted to just talk briefly about the work that we did in partnership with the Arts Council to promote the Leckworth Arts and Crafts Show. And I'm not necessarily going to go word for word through this, but basically we worked with the Arts Council to develop a marketing plan, and with a spend of $5,000 for multiple platforms, which included social media, broadcast radio, and print publications. And so we did 2 paid social media ads at different times. The first one was a reach ad, which basically is just trying to get as many people, to get it in front of as many eyes as possible through social media. And through that ad, we reached 337,000 individuals. The ad was viewed 468,000 times. And the second ad that we did was an engagement ad. And really the purpose of that one is to target individuals who are more likely to click on that ad. Then that'll take us to the website, and they'll digest the information about the event and actually participate in the event and engage with us. So through that, we reached 48,000 users, and the ad was viewed over 105,000 times. So we thought that was, very successful for the amount that we spent. We also did a couple of organic ads. So these were just right through our Facebook page, no cost, leading up to the event to let people know the day before and the day of that it was going on that weekend, to just encourage people to come out. It ended up being a little chilly, but like a sunny, beautiful weekend. So I think those went very successfully as well. We partnered with WCJW to do some broadcast radio. So if you're not aware, WCJW has a huge broadcast area over multiple counties. So we reached a lot of people with that medium. And then the last piece that we did, we also did through print publications, through Buffalo Street and Post Journal that we paid for. I know Jackie did other things outside of this, but this is just sort of the things that we paid for through the matching funds program. And then some of the other promotional pieces that we did to help, it was on our website, the events. Jackie took out an ad in our Laramie County Travel Guide, which was 60,000 copies, which is distributed all over the country and internationally in Canada. We purchased the back, I have it on me, I think I left it over there, but the back of the event guide for Leckworth's, the Leckworth Arts and Crafts Show. So as people came in, thank you. So as people came in to the event, they would get this with a list of all the sponsors, all the vendors and everything. We purchased the back page, and it listed area businesses where you eat and get drinks, because really one of the questions we see get the most questions about it afterwards, like I really want craft beer, I want wine, I want cider, I want this, I want that. So this is an opportunity for us to showcase the businesses in the area where they printed this and handed those out at the event. And we did some blog posts and some other things just to try and do whatever we could do to promote the event. So I think it was a very good partnership. I think we got a lot of engagement. Obviously, some stuff that we can work on for next year as we continue to expand that. But just wanted to sort of give you the lay of the land of some of the work that we did, and obviously answer any questions that you might have. Cool.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, how do you gauge the success of your advertising in terms of attracting this particular demographic that you're going after? Do you know how many people from surrounding counties and surrounding states?
It's difficult to do because it's not a ticketed event. That's where Jack and I are gonna have to sit down at some point and sort of talk about attendance and some of the stuff that we can do. I can dive deeper into the analytics. That's why we really did a big social media push this year, because we get the analytics so we can see where people are, where they're engaging with us. A lot of what we did was New York State, Pennsylvania, into Canada, and Northeast Ohio. So really the drive market for people who are between 3 minutes and 3 hours plus away. So we can delve down into where these people are, potentially where they're coming from. But because it's a ticketed event, it's a little bit more difficult for us to go. Well, we can see that these people bought a ticket, they're coming from Cleveland versus Warsaw.
Well, I mean, admission is free, right? Separate parking.
Yes.
So I think in the case of, when formerly we were very much for. And I saw over the weekend, of course, they had the same huge crowd, I mean, but they seemed to know where those people were coming from.
They have a gate.
And
They have a gate, people come through the gate, yeah, sure.
They ask you for your.
They ask you
zip
the
code.
date.
they asked,
Yeah,
For
they
zip
asked me.
okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if when you have your parking attendants, maybe. You know, at the next one. You have different parking lots that you're utilizing, and I think, utilize the Rotary. Perry. For parking. They were parking at the. Driving. And then also elsewhere. But you should know exactly just by looking at license. But that might help understand, so you can target your advertising. Wherever.
Right. And yeah, and that's kind of why we sort of do it, this, so the drive market versus advertising in California.
Sure.
We can spend a lot of money there, but I don't think you getting
Absolutely.
return on investment for that.
We would get regional and Pennsylvania.
Correct.
And, okay,
Any other questions on that? Then, okay, then the second thing, and I just handed this out, this will be extremely quick, everyone should have a copy. It just says revenue on it. I don't know, did you get it? Go.
Here. I'm not. Or.
There's one is that Dan, you and I are there.
Excellent. So really just wanted to touch on this because we didn't have this information the last time we spoke. We really just received it in the last month.
There's one here on Dan's. We're good.
So every year, the New York State through the Oxford Economics Group does an analysis of the tourism revenue spent per county. And we just received this information. And so if you're looking at the graph at the top, 2020, obviously, that was COVID, everyone was down. We were at 41 million, but we had a tremendous bounce back here in 2021, up to 59 million, which is the highest it has ever been in Montgomery County. So we're extremely glad with that because you can see over the course of time, we've just grown. 2020 being an anomaly. But our growth of that $59 million represented 116% growth, which was the highest in the greater Niagara regions, all of the counties surrounding us. So we've had more success and a better really rebound than all of our surrounding communities. So we're very proud of that. We're very excited about that. And so really just wanted to share that with you. And on the bottom, I really want to touch on this because this was sort of included in our budget information that we supplied, but just some of the major investments and initiatives that we've got coming up for the coming year. But really want to share that good news with you. The growth in tourism in Montgomery County. So if there's any questions on that.
thank you, Larry.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, next on the agenda is the planning and development. For Mr. Bragg.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm proud to say that the Perry DRI Near Forward application, Perry is a finalist for both the DRI and Near Forward grants. Unofficially, from what we've heard, is that the DRI is Medina, Canandaigua, Perry, and for Near Forward, it's Geneseo, Canandaigua, Medina, and Perry. So last Friday, I was on the meeting with the presenters on behalf of Perry. It was the first time Laura Fox of Sullivan, she is Minnie Esposito's replacement, She's her first meeting officially for the Red Sea. And Laura is kind of a cool person. She's a planner from Rochester. But what's important to her connection possibly with Lyman County is that her forte is kind of how food is at the intersection of economic development. We had 3 questions. The 3 questions were from folks that were already, of the 15 folks that were pretty familiar with Wyoming County. Steve Griffin, Matt Cole, and Paul Morrell. In essence, those questions had to do with housing. Because the Perry application is just 90 housing units proposed. And I thought we did very well on that. There was a resiliency plan that the village had done. So we're all, I feel very confident. So what will happen is you can have one, the other, but not both. So there'll be someone who was awarded the DRI for $10 million and a year for 4.5. So this is part also of our department's strategy going forward for some of our villages in the county. Like for instance, the active transportation plan for the village of town of Warsaw and the just transition grant for the village of Silver Springs, and how to leverage contemporary studies and plans for this grant. So for instance, like the town and village of Catskill, next time around, we're trying to figure out something how to do that, or for Genesee Falls, Porterville. This is how you'll get it done. So that's kind of exciting. For broadband, again, Rose and Ellen Connect All are moving at a glacial pace. However, they do know that Lyman County is on their radar. I've offered to say it will be a pilot for any program. So Rich Sullivan from Genesee Village Planning Council and I have been kind of doing some guerrilla tactics. One of which would possibly be, rather than doing an individual county by county, working together on a regional level, particularly working with the Southern Tier Network. And the Southern Tier Network is actually very excited about the possibility of working with Wyoming County. So that would be very helpful. Also for the Agricultural Farmland Protection Board, there should be a new round of funding coming out in 2023. I just recently had a meeting with GBC and the Western New York Land Conservancy of how to maximize our applications, particularly in the western half of the county. So Western New York Land Conservancy would pick up the slack of where GBC doesn't really actively recruit, and that would be in Bennett and Shelby Java. Also with garbage, we're going all James Bond. As of next month, all of the trucks should have a camera that takes a picture of when they pick up totes. In addition, there is a video of when the tote is dumped into the truck, so we'll be able to get all of the contents. And of course, the first path that we had in Middlebury, someone was lucky enough to catch deer. We saw the deer carcass go into the truck, which we say, perhaps maybe they put them in the back. We also met with the Silver Lake Association regarding their collection. That still is a number trying to crack. Certain of the private roads, it's very difficult. The totals, as they're configured right now, will not work if we get heavy snow. So we're looking at all options, possibly a dumpster, corral those totals of cars in the town. That's where that is. Questions.
Jim,
Yes, sir.
what happened to Lenny Esposito?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Moved up.
Okay, everybody, what's his job?
I'll get back to you with the job duties.
We talked to him at, I said,
Yeah,
I said, Vinny, what are you doing? He said, same as I've always done. A month later, he's doing something.
yeah, I'm going to hire up. I had a question, or not a question, but just to add to what James said, as far as the Lake Association, they did have a request which Waste Management does not do this, but for lawn debris and leaves and branches. They're looking for a solution to that, especially because they're in an island that's the populated area, similar to villages. We talked to Supervisor Guzalski about this too. Because most of us in town here, have this situation because we got, rural seconds. But in villages, I think most of the villages, I think, can pick up the leaf debris and stuff, and it's, I know that it's concerning to Supervisor Gazowski as well, that the leaf and debris is not having what happens that inside, great fertilizer. Means that, but that was part of the discussion too, there's no looking for a solution to that, and I think Supervisor Gazowski's looking into that. That's what
There's many concerns. We had one concern. A gentleman on the lake was concerned about people dumping their leaves in the lake. So I'm looking into the DEC. So the lake is a drinking water lake. And I just want to let people know, if you want to put your leaves in the lake, I got somebody's going to come see you.
they think that they don't want, I mean, they're trying to make sure they're not contaminating. There's a concern that will happen. So we'll get another solution because the state, even though it was a few years ago, the state passed the law that you can burn. So they can burn these, and they really have no place, nowhere to put them. They were putting them in the garbage bags. So that was taken away as garbage out there now with the folks. And even though they were supposed to do that, because the states and all the directions have to go along with it.
It's just become a big issue around the lake the last year or two with these stones. It never was a real big issue prior, but with these stones, it's only a bigger issue. And thanks to Mr. Bragg for looking into it, hoping this can be solved. Which is, if you're on the lake, you never completely solve it. Hate to say that, but I did.
Sam Pierce regarding possibility with the village of Perry, because they're going around halfway as it is now. They couldn't do it for this year, but we might look at what the possibility if the town wanted to work with the village next year. And Joe and I spoke with Pat Martino yesterday at the possibility of getting a dumpster for bags of leaves that could be taken away. So we're trying. Joe and I have worn out brakes and tires going around this lake trying to figure this out.
It's part of the job, right, Jim?
Yeah, that's right.
Most villages, including Warsaw, Wyoming, I'm sure, maybe Attica, do leaf collection. A couple times a year. I mean, they vacuum them up, they mulch them, and then they dump them somewhere. I don't know if they do leaf collection in your.
The village does.
The village does.
The village,
Why can't you establish a
we might attempt, but you're adding a lot more cost. And we're picking these people's leaves up. First thing is, I pay for garbage pickup. They don't want to pay another nickel. Am I correct, Jim?
That's correct.
They don't want to pay another nickel. So it's added expense on the town.
Well, no, I'm talking about the villages. We all do leaf collection.
It's almost
People in the village, they have their garbage picked up too.
Yeah. It happened.
And they pay village tax and.
Yeah.
They know it's tax, it's bad.
What we're getting at, Jim and I getting at is, just within the last year or two, the leaf collection has never been a problem. Am I correct, Jim? This just come on this past year. It's a big deal. We're looking into it. We'll solve it one way or another.
And we did get a call about 3 weeks ago. Someone said they had 770 bags. I'm not in plastic bags. I don't know where they came from, but
You got a huge difference between a village and a lake. Trust me.
Yeah, but we don't want yard waste to go to the landfill.
No. Understand?
And I don't know who's gonna pay for this dumpster.
they would need a ton, yes.
Correct.
Okay,
That's already been mentioned.
are you talking about a large?
30 to 40 yard. Big dumpsters.
Yeah.
I put that in Mr. Bragg office the other day, right, Jim?
Yes.
Do that through waste management.
Waste management. There is a composting operation and it's starting up in Orleans County, but they're just not ready yet, and perhaps might be ready.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else? We got a couple of things on your agenda here. Okay, Brad,
For the reappointments.
yes. So item number 2, appointment, reappointments on the Wyoming County Planning Board. So we've got, let's see. It's here, right? One is to appoint Mr. Ed Spark, for a 3-year term effective January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2025. Ed Smart in Middlebury. Appointment for the current term to expire 12/31/23. Thomas Sheldon, arborist, resigned on 11/1/22. So
I think that's a vacancy, right?
It's a vacancy.
That's what Brian tell us.
right. And then 1-year term effective January 1, 2023, December 31st, 2023 for the alternate number 1, Terry Page. 6655 Silver Road, Prairie, the alternate, Suarez, Wing Street, Bliss, and Dark.
So I'm confused, we have a vacancy to fill and 2 alternates to approve?
A regular,
A regular, the vacancy, and 2 alternates.
which for the resolution, we'll just take that vacancy out. This was just for you guys to, FYI, I believe.
I'm still confused.
It'll look a little neater when it gets to the resolution, but you're appointing 3 people.
We're appointing Mr. Smart.
To replace the term for the town of Sheldon's.
No, Mr. Smart is a Middlebury, but he can just be reappointed. Planning board for another 3-year term.
Okay.
And the other 2 are.
Alternates.
The alternates,
But we still have a vacancy.
correct.
Okay, I thought we were trying to fill the vacancy.
No.
The alternate.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I think it's just the way Bobby wrote it, so I'm a little confusing, but.
She was
Just a little
I mean, we allow the term explicit rather than assuming one is certain.
I think that was my confusion, is because I thought it's like stayed within the town of Sheldon. Right? Isn't that how it works? Okay. So those 2 were very, I'm with you now, I'm back.
And I don't think that it matters on the alternate, so I don't think we need her.
Right.
Yes.
Might get to resign, because he spends too much time in the road. So. That unfortunately, casualty of that change to one.
Sure. All right. Motion, okay, motion by Supervisor Roberts. Further discussion. Favor. Vote is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is Jackie Sweeney. Jackie, you want to come up and talk about give us an update on. Yes.
To the question that Supervisor Berwinger asked, Vinny Esposito was the senior vice president of the economic development SD, and he's also the assistant secretary of state governmental affairs.
Well,
Thank you. Did anyone actually did not know that I was going to be talking about X because I responded to Cheryl's email regarding the decision that the supervisor made regarding our funding for 2023, and I asked if I could just come and take the case, if you will, for why they should ask for reconsideration, but just a quick overview of the Red National event that happened a few weeks ago. Everything that we put in for those of you not aware, we are working on this event pretty much year-round. We start in January, registration, application, moving, that happens in April. And then our meeting with our partners starting about April and right up until the week off. You know, our partners are the parent, Carmen and Rotary, they're in charge of the parking and the food vendors. So they have a strong thumbprint, if you will, on details and figures for that. We have not yet received all the details on net revenue because invoices are still coming in and we not have a deep details yet. With regards to attendance, that also we do not have a definite number on because the official attendance is based on the number of wristbands that are distributed as people come into the event or come to the or parking, and then each member of a car receives a wristband to help us determine the attendance, and we don't have those figures yet. Just an overall comment, I think that we could not have planned any better, expected any better of a smooth execution, if you will. For those of you who may know, you know, pre-Harry, there was perhaps not any. I can't imagine or think of a year when we presented the event at the Veterans State Park where we did not have some kind of a backup situation for at least a couple hours, cars being backed up all the way to 390. This is a scenario that no longer exists because of the parking infrastructure that has been put in place. All of that being said, we are still getting a lot of comments, people calling, taking the time to write. And these are not necessarily people that are local, but from Buffalo or Rochester region that are begging us to take it back from that car because it's just not the same. So that is one negative that we are dealing with. We can't change people's emotional connection to a space. But we are doing everything we can to make the experience in Wyoming County as best as possible. As Eric said, we're going to be meeting to talk about our strategy, and also one of our new board members, one of his expertise is in strategy development and all of that. So we are constantly, and even when we were at the joint car, we were constantly looking at what can we do to make this event better. Because we are wanting to be also mindful of new trends and how we can fit within that conversation. So that's a broad general overview of the event. We don't know yet what our net is regarding what we actually need, or on memorandum of understanding with our partners is actually 25% of their of their rents, and we don't know what that figure is yet. So as soon as we have it, but I'm here today to.
There's going to be that question. Much work. Your arts president. So this is the second year that you held that event. In Perry. In the first year, you limited the number of vendors because you weren't quite sure how many people would attend. Did that number change, or did you keep the number of vendors the same?
So thanks for that question. We were able to create at least 310 spaces total. Last year, 220. However, we only had 250 artisans who participated. again, because we are still dealing with artisans who need to participate in that event.
I see. Now, how about food vendors?
I think there was about 15, and again, the Rotary and firemen are responsible for that. And outside, I think I also mentioned a little bit of statistics about that. Of that number, I think there were 86 that were local employment county, but decisions these were private.
So who manages traffic control and parking?
The Perry firemen, well, it's a collaboration of, so there are two Perry firemen that are kind of heads up that aspect of the event. However, we depend on all of the volunteers that we leverage for parking to execute.
I mean, Rotary, as I mentioned earlier, was at charter for that. They were directing traffic into the parking area. Although there were state police as well as areas out of. The question has come up regarding the closure of certain roads around the event.
That is one of the comments that we've been dealing with, especially from the local businesses right in downtown Perry. And again, we have no real decision-making power regarding parking and all of that kind of infrastructure. So our main focus is the partisans and the neighborhoods of the event. Personally, it's been a little bit of a concern for me, but that is something that we've gotten to from local businesses, some, not all.
Sure.
The folks that have spoken to me that those roads that are closed off, that creates undue burden, if you will. However, at one of the first meetings we had with the police, it was based on a recommendation, I think, from the Warsaw Sheriff's Department that advised closing out those side roads to have more control.
You didn't necessarily utilize the sheriff's department for traffic.
This year?
Yes.
No.
So let me contrast the event that you had down there in Perry, Apple. So every year, was the organizer of the Apple Festival. Then the town of Middlebury, a request to conduct that event in the village of Wayne. And we have to pass a resolution within the town to allow her to have that event, as well as send a notarized letter back to her. Then, of course, she goes out and takes care of all the other, issues for parking and, works with the fire department, works with the sheriff's. People look to you as the organizer of the Letchworth event, which is because the Arts Council does in fact sponsor that event. But I think if anyone were to ask, they'd say, see Jackie, she's the organizer. So I think it's important that you kind of take an all-encompassing view of that event and make sure that all of the necessary surrounding towns that may be potentially impacted by road closures and things of that nature, that the towns that are aware of it have granted permission for that to occur, as well as the county with county roads that are closed. For Appalachian, town of Middlebury Highway Department places all of the parking cones and road closure and signs up. And then it's just up to the volunteers and the fire company to kind of manage that. However, we utilize the sheriff's department for traffic. As well as the state police and the sheriff's department auxiliary, they do a tremendous job. So I would think that moving forward, you kind of look at the big picture there in terms of which towns potentially are impacted.
And we have, however, when we do have all our meetings, the Perry Police, we were taking our leadership from the chief over, and he works with all the other police entities in, so that's what we have to, and so I didn't, didn't think that we had any others. But it's good feedback, and I'll bring it back to the.
I think in the event that if you're wanting to conduct that event wherever in Perry, that you have an obligation to let the surrounding towns that potentially are impacted know what the potential road closures may have.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring that back to the team.
Sure.
Because, like I said, it's definitely you need an interesting partnership, so,
But not without a precedent for other festivals that have been held in the town. When we were doing Jam in the Valley, it was essentially the sheriff's department that was managing that. And then, of course, the health department had to sign off building codes.
That's all part of it, yeah.
Is it all part of, so is it part of the permit for the Letchworth Festival that occurs in Perry?
Yes.
there's a lot of
It is.
different terms in the application.
Okay,
Sure.
yes,
And the permit, it should, that should be part of it, but it doesn't list the county roads as being closed, or the town roads as being closed. It only mentions the village of Perry streets. And, I believe by law, we had to pass a resolution at our individual towns for road closures, because it's great liability at state. And you also have to do that for a county road. We're going to do that. There needs to be, I appreciate you bringing that up, because there needs to be the collaboration of all of them involved. Because, I know in my case, in the town of Warsaw, we get Smaller Road, Beardsley Road, Burns Road, Merchant Road is a county road. Our county highway did not know that road was going to be closed. Sheriff didn't know that those roads were going to be closed. He saw them when the girls started at school. He was wondering who closed the roads. But, and I, superintendent did not know. He asked me who closed the roads. And, it was brought up at our board meeting as well. And, so that would be very helpful, because it was witnessed, there were many people that were trying to find their way to the Perry Park that were like, at one point, there were 4 cars that were in an opposite lane on Merchant Road. In the lane, looking at their GPS, looking at their homes, see where else to go. And I believe the same was true of some of the other roads too that intersected one way. So it could, and something happened, it would not have been a good thing at all, and it was great liability. Whereas if we go through and do everything that needs to be done, that's covered and it's going to be helpful too. I think the sheriff may have had more people on road patrol giving that direction to try to oversee situations like that. Class. So that I appreciate doing that.
I was superintendent in close the roads, close the road.
So it's a good thing, because like I said, every time I ask about details regarding parking situation and stuff, or anything to do with security, know, so Chief Grover has this team and family plan. And so, you know, so. This is a great feedback.
Broker and not jurist.
So the Perry County controlled work on the road.
So here's,
Or the guys that work, it's like, so.
so here's the deal.
I see.
So, Monday. When they had Columbus Day. or Indigenous Peoples Day. My wife and my grandson wanted to go to Charcoal Corral. I normally take Silver Lake Road, straight shot down, past the lake on the east side, go right down the back way. And I get to the intersection of Route 28 and Silver Lake, and there's a road closed barrier. However, oncoming is two vehicles and a huge farm tractor with hauling a newer tanker. So basically, I get to this intersection at the same time as the tanker. He wants to make a left-hand turn on the 28. I want to go straight through. I go around the barrier and straight down Silver Lake, and he comes out on the other side and goes, makes his left-hand turn. So the enforcement is pretty lax because all the way down, I didn't see one other vehicle other than homes across the road that would indicate some type of closure. And there are two parallels, there are perpendicular streets on Silver Lake that go in the village. I was able to go on all the way. Corral, come to the backside, and of course, then there's a, you know, for parking, but you know, that's just a point today. You know, if a village is going to close roads, they don't necessarily have jurisdiction in surrounding towns. That's why the sheriff's department and the highway departments.
In the past, it was like I would ask directly with the police and the sheriff. That has not been the situation the last 2 years, so thanks for the feedback.
You know, questions on that? Okay. All right, now you want to talk about the budget request?
Yeah, so and that's what I just wanted to kind of highlight. Again, over the years that I presented here, I perhaps some like broken record, but I want to repeat it again. I do believe that Arts Council in Wyoming is part of the solution because we are bringing dollars into the community. We are bringing experiences and activities into the community that are bringing folks not just from the community in Wyoming County to faith it, but people from out of the county having in their spending dollars. We as an organization also are extremely committed to using local businesses as much as we can. Although that is not reciprocated, to be quite honest, in a lot of these businesses, but we use the lumber yards, we use the printing companies, we purchase whatever food we need to go to receptions, what have you. We purchase items that we need for displays and beautification, all from businesses in Wyoming County. Local food vendors participate in our festival, as I alluded to before, that we have these 6 of our food vendors at the Electric Show that were in Wyoming County. Food industry and other businesses are benefiting from visitors that come to Wyoming County for the Columbus Day of the Indigenous peoples weekend to the festival. They're spending money in our restaurants, they're spending money in our bars, spending money in our breweries, and I'm sure there's some of the occasional trip to Walmart and Dollar General and so on and so forth if they forgot. not to mention the accommodation that it has. Again, we have no specific details on the funds that were generated from that, but most all the places that are in the accommodation business in Wyoming County and beyond the borders were impacted, perhaps, do I dare to say, at full capacity. We have service groups, like the Girl Scouts and Dairy Promotion, that are allowed to have foods at our event at no cost, because they are serving our community through nonprofit or reasons. So we if we have a space and they want to be part of it, they are invited and welcome to participate. There are locals who capitalize on this event. And if we have all events, the same parking, yard sales, and so on and so forth. And there are many other programs outside of the Metro Arts and Crafts Show that we present or enable through the multiple community arts events that we and not smaller nonprofits write to us to apply for those smaller pots of money to add arts and cultural events to their annual schedule. In 2021, we presented or enabled over 80 programs and activities. I did a very conservative estimate of just in the last 10 years, we have brought in way over $1 million in just grant funds to this area. And most of it is going back into the community, not coming to us for administrative. Right now, the Metro Arts and Crafts Show coordinator and staff, she makes 20 cents more than minimum wage. She has not necessarily threatened, but say this is unsustainable and wants to leave. I continually lose brilliant staff, great, dedicated staff, because they can't do it for other people. And so, but just to continue, we're also providing grant capacity to help other organizations thrive. We were instrumental in providing links for free government, and now they're a 10-year-old foreign company that's looking at building a $200,000 annual budget. Genesee Dance Theater, Paul Thomas, Dan Butler, those are all artists and smaller arts organizations that have been directly impacted by the work that we have done to writing grants. And trust me, these grants are not easy grants. Libraries, many of these libraries that are presenting performing arts series throughout the summer, the Silver Lake Institute, those events and activities are happening because of the grants that we write and bring into the community. And again, most of that grant goes to them, and very little goes to administrative support. This year, last year, I gave up any travel requests. I put $50 miles in my car for the Arts Council, and I donate all of my mileage back to the organization. Our staff, myself included, were committed not just to the organization, but to making art happen in rural places, specifically in this beautiful county that we call home. We present exhibitions where we provide opportunities for local artists to exhibit their work in a professional capacity. These things take time. For growing our artists, we are giving them opportunities to grow. And then we have many youth scholarship opportunities and performance opportunities for both local and regional artists. So these are just a fast overview of the work that the Arts Council is doing. And again, I want to bring up that, as I did last year. In the 80s, the Arts Council was receiving over $18,000 from our county government. This year, we're receiving $18,000. We now have the National Arts and Crafts Show in Wyoming County. Again, I don't know what those tax implications are, but just even doing a very conservative tabulation of if 200 or the artisans we had made $500,000 over the weekend, what a 4% taxes, it didn't even include the New York State taxes. That would be about 10,000 in taxes, and I'm sure it's a lot more because that's super conservative. And not, some artists are making upwards of, $2,500. So again, we are part of the solution. And so my final task to you guys is, please, I would beg you to reconsider what you have determined that you will be given to the Arts Council. And I'm.
For Jackie.
How many vendors did you use to get down the budget?
In 2019, we had 320.
What do you charge per vendor?
$300 per week. Just something to be aware of. That our expenses, and no matter what we presented it, will apply. So our expenses now presented in Wyoming County versus when we presented the park has significantly increased. And having stayed at the park, the new park manager told us that we will be looking at no less than $50,000 for that contract.
Right. I understand that, and last year you cut back on your vendors because you wanted to have it at Perry Park. There was a few board members that asked for you to look at the fairgrounds. And I think your words was that it doesn't fit our team. But, you only had 250 vendors this year, so that you were 60 short of what you had room for. 60 short of that, $300 a pop is $18,000.
So we can't force people to participate in the festival. We've done numerous marketing to attract artisans, but they will not, we can't make them apply. So we made provision for over 300 artists at the park, but we only got 250 applicants. We did not determine how many people made it into the show. So we have no control over that.
I have a question, Jackie. Does the Arts Council solicit contributions from area businesses, like the banks or Wyoming County, or any of those other large entities, in the county?
Specifically for virtual private platform?
No, for the Arts Council.
Continually. Continually. I've been trying to get Five Star Bank to be a major sponsor for this event for 14 years.
Okay.
And they were asked once by another entity and $85,000. But we have consistently applied to the Wyoming Foundation for programs. I think I talked about it last year. One of our most recent programs that we've been funded by the Wyoming Foundation for Woody Wonders. Subtitle From Sheep to Shawl is a phenomenal book. In fact, the state representative in the Bible world said that program should be replicated around the state because it's a state-of-the-art program. It takes participants from going to a sheep farm right up to creating beautiful garments. So that's just one example. The Bank of Cascade has consistently, and prior to this sheep to shawl program, in conjunction with the Wyoming Foundation, sponsored our annual dance program that we present to the community. And one of the reasons for us writing all these grants to bring higher level programs to our community is to ensure that no one feels alienated from participating in a phenomenal classical concert. And what have you. This September we presented God in a Gift from Rochester. And we presented it, and we like to move people comes from because we serve the entire county. So this concert was presented at Catholic Church in Strasburg. Even the next day, I was getting texts from people. People called on the phone. Thank you so much for bringing this event to our community. They didn't have to pay that. We always invite people to make a donation at the door, but that's optional. We write these grants so that everyone have a chance to experience quality art.
The grants tend to be competitive.
Extremely.
I'm wondering, you are, of course, efforts come with a 501c. Most 501cs usually have a marketing to market and solicit for contributions. Kind of almost a dedicated activity, to try to get funds to provide that. But I don't see you having the staff to be able to accomplish.
So the marketing situation is an ongoing nightmare. Our most recent, or two most recent situations is because we have hired multiple marketing staff over the years. And I'm partnering because again, we don't have the capacity to have a whole thing. Last year, I was able to secure an American position, and I wrote the grant for the 3 arts councils in the Low region. How this AmeriCorps position works is they pay us 13,000 to the whoever is hired, and also provides health insurance, which is one of the best health insurance. And if you are selected or your grant is accepted, you're asked to give a match, some matching dollars. So our matching dollars is 95,000. That's the reason I wrote it in collaboration for the other, to include the other arts councils. And so we ended up paying 3 something. So those are the creative ways that we try to solve staffing problems, because we are all in the same boat where marketing is critical. We do a ton of stuff, but most times I am struggling trying to do marketing along with others, but I don't have anyone that capacity. So we got this marketing person. AmeriCorps only allows this person to do a year, because they're usually college students or young folks that are still trying to pay off college loans. And they only run for a year. And so that position ended in March, and we had an opportunity to apply for another position. We did, and all the 19 agencies around the region that applied for the second round, none of us had one applicant because of COVID and how the workload was exploding, where you can go to Target and Starbucks and make a lot more money. So that round, March to March, is canceled. They opened the opportunity again for to apply, did for the October round, We got one applicant who actually used to live in Perry. Went through all of the interview process with us, with the service collaborative, which runs the medical road, Buffalo. Thought we were good to go, and that person decided to go in a different direction. We recently, as I talked about when I was here last, got this massive grant, collaborative grant we wrote with other two arts councils. Part of that grant includes hiring 10 artists. They all make more than the EDs, $65,000 a year plus health insurance and what these artists are getting. And the administrative arm of that fund also allows us to hire a marketing person. We just did, again, it's for the 3 arts councils. They are being paid 51.4, and they want money. So that's one of our challenges. We cannot afford to pay these people. Everybody wants more money, and we don't have the capacity to that. So you're absolutely right. Most higher level nonprofits have a dedicated marketing staff, a donor development staff, and what have you. Those are the small organizations, we do it all.
Well, you have a marketing aspect is kind of a dual role. You have to market your product.
Correct.
And then you also have to have an effort to solicit donors. Provide that. That in and of itself is pretty much important. Okay. So the difference here, here's something I'm clear. When I look at Janice, the budget is for 15,000. Jackie's asking for 25. There's a $10,000 difference.
Chairman. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a comment. I'm on the board for the Arts Council. I've been on the board for the last 2.5 years or so. This has all been new to me, learning everything they've been doing. Just to see the dynamic things that Jackie and her team are doing down there is phenomenal. I don't know how many supervisors have visited the Arts Council and been to some of their shows and projects. You know, that'd be a good thing maybe that you should check out. In the meantime, she is doing bare bones. People, staff, she doesn't have a cushy office. She's got a cubby in the back. I mean, she's really doing all she can, I believe. And there's more fundraisers than the Arts Council thing. There's other fundraisers year round. They work really hard. And I think we should give them the money. I mean, we have other departments that we don't have a problem handing them what they need. So I think we should just give them the money, and Jackie seems to be able to budget her money well. She's done a lot with the limited resources she has. So I see no problem giving her the money.
You know, it gets Joe.
Mr. Chairman, I'll back up every word that Robert said. I previously was on that board for 6 years. And not much, occasionally, I still stop in there quite often. Let me back up. I know there was a lot of discussion of having it in Pike. The Village of Perry put a tremendous push on the Arts Council to have it there. And you can't blame Jackie because it made it a lot easier for her or whatever staff she has or volunteers also. But the Village of Perry did put a tremendous push on her and the Arts Council. Am I right or wrong, Jackie? They did, well, you know that, I know they did. And I know who some of the leaders were. And all the work she does right down there and the school system. Does an awful lot of work with the students in the school, from the lowest grades to the highest grades. That maybe didn't get brought up an awful lot, but I know that, and I'm all about repeating myself. Every word Mr. Roberts said, I'll back it up 100%. And I'm all for giving her the funding that she's asking for.
Thank you, Joe. I just consulted with the clerk. It appears that there may be interest in furthering this discussion And so I suggested that maybe we have a resolution for the conversation to the finance committee next week, where we can, you know, make some decisions around whether or not we will allocate funding to the Arts Council, additional funding.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. So I have a motion from Supervisor Berlanger. Move the discussion for additional funds. There's also from planning to finance committee meeting first Tuesday in November. Thank you. We can discuss it there. Any further discussion?
It would be an increase of 10,000.
An increase of 10,000. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Balls.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I could just back up one thing that Gordon said. We have so many people that come from out of Wayne County to our gallery and events. And the compliments are phenomenal. And I've got to be honest, it breaks my heart that more of our leaders are not seeing what is happening in the country. State of the art, some of our gallery shows are state of the art. Things that they should be ignored. We really work hard to make our community. Thank you.
You do a great job, Jackie.
Okay. All right. Next up. All right, next on my agenda, yours as well as appears to present the Wyoming County IDA and WPAC 22 annual report. There you are. I didn't need the batteries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every year, we are required to present to the planning committee of the county, our annual report from the IDA. Three of the members here on the planning committee have already heard the presentation that Bevan, Bill, and Doug has generously give their time to the IDA board. And really appreciate that. So Cheryl is graciously passing around the annual report that we prepared and presented to the IDA board at the last meeting. I'm not going to read it word for word, but I certainly want to at least highlight some of the projects that the IDA has leveraged here in Lycoming County. My opening summary page is kind of a quick overview of why I think economic development projects happened this past year. And a lot of it was related to pandemic, a lot of it was related to supply chain issues. The pandemic caused a lot of people to want to go outside and go visit places and campgrounds and tourism destination places. We had some significant investments made in the tourism destination businesses that the IDA board helped out with. I'm just going to quickly jump right into the projects to give you a rundown of what we have. The first one is the Orangeville Energy Project. That's the battery storage project up on Centerline Road in the town of Orangeville. The company built almost a $12 million facility as a battery storage facility. They have also contributed a very generous host agreement with the town of Orangeville. So that was one of the projects that we did this past year. The IDA board also approved the Alley Cap Wind Project for the portion that's going to be in the town of Arcade for 13 wind turbines. That capital investment is going to be $72 million. We are all set on our approvals and we're just waiting for the company to begin their work on the construction of it. Below that is a solar project that we approved in the town of Bennington, the IDA board did. That one is almost a $24 million project. Just these three projects on this opening represents over $180 million of capital investment that was made in Wyoming. It's also helping with the green energy initiatives that New York State is trying to achieve. And so the IDA board has been very supportive of those renewable energy projects. And it continues on to the next page with the Delaware River Solar Project in Town Pike. A 12.6 megawatt facility with over $25 million of capital investment as well. We have also approved the Sun East Highview Solar Project in the town of Castile. This project has yet to go to construction, but again, the proposed capital investment of that one is going to be $20 million, and a community host agreement has also been worked out for the community. When I look at these renewable energy projects, help the landowners, they help the community, and then they help the state meet their state energy requirements, and they, to be honest with you, they help the IDA to generate revenue for us, because for the Borsberg that do not know, the IDA does not get any county dollars. We raise all of our own revenue by charging a fee for projects that we do. So these are very important projects, and then over the years, the renewable energy projects has enabled us to go out and buy industrial property and create some infrastructure in our parks, industrial parks and things of that nature. We have a very generous and pretty significant revolving loan fund. We make very low interest loans to companies. So it's been very important for us here to be able to generate those revenues. So in addition to the renewable energy projects, we also do some smaller projects. We were instrumental in helping Beer Justice Brewing get started in Arcade. It was their first microbrewery. Tammy and Paul Romesser. Paul was a town justice in the town of Sheldon before starting the Beer Justice business over in Arcade. About $750,000, 6 new jobs. Again, I mentioned the supply chain issue. Mike Kelly over in Perry built a $835,000 warehouse. They currently employ 8 people. We're going to create 2 new jobs. On the next page, we have Hillcrest Industries in Attica. They built almost $1 million warehouse on their property in Attica. The Dream Lake Campground project in the town of Warsaw. Company has invested almost $1 million so they could expand and create more campsites, and they put in some new bathhouses and a pond. So a very large expansion for a locally owned campground. The IDA assisted Draskow Manufacturing in the town of Weathersfield with their next addition to their building, which Carl just seemed to keep on growing there. Company employs about 19 people. They're going to create 3 new jobs as a result of this project. It's almost $700,000 of capital investment. The IDA board approved the project over Perry on Main Street called Lexworth Base Camp. It's the Mike Bellamy project, where he's taking 2 dilapidated buildings on Main Street and hopes to kind of refurbish them, revitalize them, and tie and link businesses in there to Lexington State Park. They kind of put that project on hold for now because Perry is just applied for both the DRI and a Fast New York grant program. If they do that, there could be some significant state grant dollars that could help with that project. So that one's kind of on hold. The IDA board also helped with the establishment of a brand new campground and resort in Wyoming County called Lexford Valley Campground and Resort. It was a former church camp owned, or the name of it was Covenant Acres in the town of Pike on Elbow Road. The owner has invested over $1.2 million into it, the project. Going to create 4 full-time jobs, 4 part-time jobs, and drive a significant amount of sales tax revenue from the consumers that will be coming into the facility. We had the chance as an IDA board to go over and meet at the facility for our annual meeting. Get a quick tour. I can report that he did have, he's had campers in there now for about 3 weeks, just rustic campers or camping tents and things of that nature. And so he's excited to at least get some revenue starting in the door. On the next page is Morton Salt. They are in the process of building a warehouse as well, $6.25 million. It's under construction. The roof is estimated to be put on, I think, next week. The general manager told me on the phone this week.
So that's a big project. What that will allow is Morton Salt can now warehouse on their property in Silver Springs all their outgoing product. Before, they were renting warehouses all along the East Coast. They had like 3 or 4 locations where they were warehousing. So they can eliminate all those satellite warehouses, have it all centralized and ship it directly back here. Silver Springs makes it much more competitive for them. Monty Acquisitions, doing business at Select Door in the town of Geneva. $705,000 capital project. They employ 35 people, create 5 new jobs. The board approved them for IDA incentives. The main reason for the project was a piece of $1 million CNC machine equipment that they bought in Italy. It didn't have a building big enough to put it in. So that's why they are expanding over there. Park Warner LLC, also known as Empire Distributing in the town of Arcade, is a wholesaler and distributor of pellet and wood stoves as well as outdoor living products. The company, when we first recruited them into Wyoming County, had 6 employees. They are now up to 41 people. Build a huge warehouse, and they're going to create 7 new jobs by putting up another building. Almost a $1.5 million capital investment. Again, a locally owned company, family owned. The IDA board also just recently approved another micro brewery project called Farmcraft Brewery. It's going to be on Route 28 on the corner of Folsomdale Road in the town of Sheldon, on Terrace Corners intersection. The IDA approved the incentives for the project. It's going to be 12 new jobs over the next 3 years, and the family being built on part of the family farm, and it's going to be about $1.2 million of capital investment. It's not just going to be a microbrewery; it's going to be more of an event center. They're going to have all kinds of gatherings there. They're going to do movie nights, and they're going to bring food trucks in, and they're going to do farm market stuff, and so it's really going to turn into, I think, a real tourism destination for Wyoming County. So, and then in the pipeline, we have 3 more projects. Silver Lake Solar is talking about doing a project in the town of Castile. 24.99 megawatts. We're working with a company in Perry called TTI Light Industrial Millwright Services. They are planning to build a new facility in the town of Perry on Adrian Road, which is where the racetrack is. They own that property. And then the other projects in the pipeline is Steel Avenue Parcel B, which is a piece of property that I mentioned the IDA is able to buy because we have some revenue coming in from these projects. That property is promised to a hotel developer, and the company has just submitted their site plan to the planning board in Arcade for a 77-room Holiday Inn Express hotel with a pool. And so that project is moving forward, which was delayed for 2.5 years because of COVID. But we're really excited about that. There's a lot of interest in having someplace to stay in Arcade. There's some new event centers that have popped up. We have the train, a lot of other local needs for housing or for overnight accommodations. So we're excited about that project moving forward. That one has yet to come to the IDA board for incentives, but they will. On the next page, we talk about some administrative accomplishments. The IDA is the administrator, we administer the Wyoming County Business Center, as well as a local development corporation under the IDA called the Business Assistance Corporation, which is essentially the lending arm and not-for-profit portion of the IDA. We can do some special things with that we can't with the IDA. So under the micro enterprise program grant that the county got on our behalf, that came to the Business Assistance Corporation. If you may recall, we got $300,000 to go out and small grants of $20,000 to businesses for new startups as well as small businesses, less than 5 employees. The grants were doled out in portions of about $20,000. I'm happy to say that we have We have a local committee that has been formed to help out with the review and vetting of those projects. We have already approved and got money out the door for 8 of those projects. We have 4 more in the hopper that the committee is going to be reviewing next week, and then it will go to the Business Assistant Corporation Board of Directors on November 10th. So there are 4 more in the pipeline, which will then only leave us room for 1 more grant. $3,000. So it's been a very successful program. We're very happy with it, and I know a lot of small businesses that are really delighted with that. The other, the Wyoming County Business Center I mentioned, we administer that. Dan, very familiar with that. He's on the board of directors. We do a lot of micro lending through that program. We do the entrepreneurship program called Fast Track through that program. And we also do the environmental cleanup of projects through that organization. Right now, we're heavily engaged with the EPA on a $500,000 grant we received to clean up the former MK site in the Village of Arcade, which is contaminated with a significant amount of asbestos debris, as well as buried petroleum tanks. That this property sits right on the edge of Cattaraugus Creek. It's a significant environmental challenge, and so the Business Center is stepping up to help clean that up. And so that's kind of what we do through the Wyoming County Business Center. So that's really the IDA portion of the report. The next section is the Wyoming County Business Assistance Corporation, as I mentioned, which is the entity that does a lot of the not-for-profit stuff that is prohibited by the IDA. So we do our lending through there. We have what's called a GAIN loan fund, where we do loans up to $200,000 at 1% money for ag and ag-related projects. So the IDA or the Business Center Board approved the loan this past year to Boxer Maple. It's a facility right on 20A, and you're heading west out of Barrysburg. The project is well underway, not quite finished. I mentioned the beer adjustment program, how we gave them the incentives, but we also gave them a GAIN loan because they are using locally sourced New York ingredients for the making of their brew. So they also got that loan. Calcana, which is the Dream Lake Campground I mentioned, we did the incentives, but we also did a $200,000 loan with them in collaboration with a community bank here in Warsaw. The Lexworth Campground in Pike, in addition to the incentives, we did a $200,000 gap financing loan with them in conjunction with the Bank of Castile, also known as Tompkins Community Bank. I said now it's known as that. And then a loan pending, we have one kind of queued up and saving the money for Arcade National Railroad that's going to be doing some significant upgrades for some of the safety gates located on the state roads for the rail process. I guess the last thing I would just point in your direction is this kind of multicolored chart. It's kind of a quick summary of all the leases and pilots that we currently have in place at the IDA for those businesses. You can see down on the list a little farther in the page that we returned the pilots expired on 3 businesses that are now fully back on the tax rolls. LBM Materials, which is the sawdust business owned by Lee Mayer, the Arcade Attica Railroad Corp, and Beaver Hollow, who's back on fully.
For now.
For now. We got some project pending that I talked about earlier, and then there's a list of our loans that we have from the Business Assistance Corporation. You can see a complete list of those, and that doesn't include all the loans that we have through the Business Center. That's usually presented in the separate report. So, Mr. Chairman, I would present that as our annual report to the Planning Committee. Happy to answer any questions or take any comments if there are already.
Questions for Jim? Very much.
I want to thank the committee. I want to thank the board members as well that are here, Doug, and Becky and Joe, for all their time. Appreciate that. You have one more item to get.
But I think we're gonna withdraw that.
Okay.
So, I didn't want to lose the appointment for the Wyoming County Business Center. Was to fill the unexpired 3-year term, Rick Fish, Jr. Placing Rick Fish Senior. My mistake there. So, okay,
You had a change of heart?
well, Jim sent an email that unfortunately Rick Fish Senior is now resides in Florida. Was reluctantly resigning. And had been there since 2006,
One of the originals.
yes, it was sad news. But I see you're gonna replace
The Rick Jr.
it. Okay.
Rick Jr. is a quieter version of,
Okay, so, well, that's good to hear.
Rick Fish is the COO of Complete Payroll, very enterprising family, and I spoke with him, and he's very excited to be coming on board. And he's also a very generous donator of sponsorship to the Fast Track program, and is one of our guest speakers for every class.
Be a good dad. Here to move that. I think, well, okay, so here. Okay. All right, so moving by Supervisor Davis. Was Rick Fish Senior with Rick Fish Junior. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, next is Water Resource Agency, the Steve programs.
Got 4 things on my agenda, and I'm pushing it. The first being a commission to go out to bid for the water meter installation. This is part of the water meter replacement grant. We have gone through the process purchasing of the meters, will be delivered early next year. The next step is to go out to bid with the installation. Push that. This is again just request to go out to bid.
I'll move it. Thank you. Motion by Supervisor Bermeyer. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
The next item is permission for the Water Resource Agency to negotiate land lease. This is part of the Silver Lake dredging project. Up till 2 months ago, this would have been a non-starter because DEC was saying that the sediment could not be spread on hanging ground, then that land be used for ag purposes. 2 months ago, they were working with that. They sent us some emails and we can put this on back in the April. That being said, we are now looking at 2 parcels of ground. They're actually all on the same lot. One portion will be used for watering, and the other portion will be used for land spreading. It's a 28-acre parcel. We had talked to the property owner. Preliminarily, they're interested. And it's going to be dependent on getting final approval of DEC to allow that to occur, as well as grant funding, as well as final approval by this board. We're encouraged at this point. This is a huge step. It ultimately will allow us, if everything goes right, to actually get this project. So that's encouraging. What we'd like to do is actually start some formal negotiations with that landowner and see if we can come to an agreement. Let's start those next phases to start applying for grant, get the final DEC approval of the bid, and then come back to this chamber.
You have to test that soil.
Pardon me?
Do you have to test that soil evidence or something?
Just going along the ground releasing. We don't have to test that, but we do have the sediment, we test. We know what the sediment will be back on. When you look at the sediment, most of it's within the parameters of acceptability. There was one portion down by the dam in Village Perry that I would call a little hotter soil. That's gonna have to be dewatered and hauled off site. But 90% of the material will be able to land spring back on the farm.
Sounds like it's gonna smell.
That's actually one of the concerns and the potential odor associated with this, but you know, we look at ways to reduce that.
Those houses. Forward. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, we're coming on that here shortly. The next item is basically a fixed asset. Back in 2013, when the agency was born, this dam. That dam has about 10,000 miles on it, so in 10 years, got 10,000 miles on it. Not a lot. And a lot of this is because of some MOUs that we worked out with the health departments. A lot of the work is being done by health department staff using their vehicles. So we have a fairly good dam sitting there. It's not getting a lot of usage. And I think this would benefit some of the other agencies within the county eventually. And get it off of our books before it rots up sitting in the parking lot. Some other health departments could use this dam for what they for their purposes. So again, this is just a request to get it off our books and somebody else's hands or can be utilized. It's a good thing, there's no rust on it. It's starting to come out where it just was sitting there. But I think if it gets back into use and things like that, that'll help greatly. Just sitting there is the best thing.
Steve, that was one of the original grant, right?
Yes,
$300,000 or something.
back when we, in 2013, when the agency was formed, I was purchased that grant. The car,
Like leak detection machine or something.
yeah, that was the purpose of it, was to haul some of that equipment around.
Right.
So now that the health department, we have an MOU with them to do that leak detection. They're just using their vehicles.
And they got the machine, right?
No, that's actually, it's the leak detection equipment stored within the building of the health department. That was to put it in to go out and do the work. But nothing is stored in it. It's actually set up for construction, and it has all the valves and cabinets in it already. So they could work.
I mean, this might be an idea of with the problems. What that is,
I don't know, man.
yeah,
I can have another one.
low mileage,
Now they can have another one.
there, or any other department that might. Yeah, or ban. Okay,
It doesn't anymore.
all right, motion by Supervisor Ranger. Any further discussion? In favor?
Final portion, I have a quick operational update on a couple of issues. Again, I mentioned the Silver Lake dredging, looking at that dam lease. We're currently in phase 3 of that project, finalizing the details of the engineering needed to go to that. If we can come to an agreement on this land lease, all we're going to have to do is get one permit for the space, it's solid base or complete problem. That's going to make things a lot simpler. When we were looking at the option of putting some of this material back into the lake, we were going to have to get 5 or 6 permits from Army Corps and DEC. We were being told that it took anywhere from 5 to 6 years. So we had a picture 5 to 6 years. I definitely want to be fully retired by then. But again, things are headed in the right direction. Hopefully this continues. That was finalized this year. With the engineering done. We're going to start applying for grants early next year. As part of this. Goal is to apply for grants potentially by the end of 23 or late 24. Actually have a dredging process.
So we should keep in mind that because many of these grants require matching funds. there would necessarily be some investment by the county to get silver dredging.
Today, the way we have split a lot of that cost is basically a four-way split between the Water Resource Agency, the town of Perry, town of Gastown, and Village of Perry. So that potentially may continue as we start looking forward to grant funding. Or it may just fall back on the towns. Things we have to consider as we. But today, the county has viewed the project as a significant project that affects the county. That's kind of, we got involved in that. I thought when you were chair at the time.
We still lead agency steps.
We do. That's back to 3 or 4 years ago, we actually started that.
Jeff Smith, still a grant guy.
We have utilized him up to date, yes, as well as we have also worked with some other grant writers. The waterfront revitalization grant we just applied for. We used the grant writer through Clark Patch, who's had experience. And so we use John a lot, but there are some other industries. Major replacement grant. I mentioned that the request to go out to bid. This grant was awarded late last year, and actually 10 days ago, I got the final version signed by the state. So we got the final version. I was kind of hesitant to spend the money until we got that, but we're good now. So today, what we have done is we've done the kickoff meetings with each individual town that's participating. I've gone out and discussed with the groups that's involved in this process. We looked at the numbers, verified the numbers written into the grant as to the numbers that are currently there with the system. Based on that, we have now ordered meters. That's what we're so we're really at that final stage for the bidding process. And when we do the bidding process, we're going to make it in sort of a, there's 6 of them that are participating. So it's going to be an all or none, or maybe all or maybe split up, however we word the bid with that. It's really an opportunity for a local individual to bid on a certain project that they're going to make it easy to award these bids, I guess. We have to be careful with this because we also have to satisfy the LWB side of things. So we have to do this in a manner that shows that. So see what else works out. But moving along with that grant portion. Final bullet point on there. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that during our last water resource meeting, we have started talking about, is there a need to convert from an agency to an authority? And there's a number of reasons why that might occur. There's pros and cons to that. But what we're going to be doing this year is actually looking at the couple, looking at becoming an authority versus an agency. And the reason this is really starting to come to light is when you look at the town of Covington project that's just getting finalized on that northeast corner of the town. They're looking at expansions into the rest of the town potentially. Town of Perry is looking at expansion potentially in the town of Perry, town of Middlebury possibly. Once we start putting 3 towns together, then it becomes more of a county system as it started to cross the lines into the system. So there may be an opportunity here to convert this to authority. I was given permission to start discussions with this. To see if there's a potential maybe for sure, or at least get information as to what we might need to do. So there's going to be a lot of activity on that going into 23, looking at the different steps to involve and see if it's beneficial for us to do it or not. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, and I will keep you updated as things unfold. Any questions on that or thoughts? Sure, there's probably lots of concerns. We'll address those as they come up.
Steve, do all the board members on the authority get paid like
They want to know here what Erie County is.
Erie County Water Authority is constantly in the news for all of it.
Yeah, so fortunately, we're not like three. But we don't think it was.
will increase compensation for serving on the water resource agency by, sort of huge percentage, 0 to 0.
Just a little room for that when you're moving forward and you're talking to the Eastern County. We're gonna do some sort of transfer this. Has to be planned and adopted 1 year, implemented for the next year. And it would follow my- Yeah.
So this would be sort of a planning year, and what they become, what's the deadline?
If this is a planning year, then the board of supervisors has some things that they need to do prior to the end of the year.
I guess it's not. Like that. We'll say that.
The other thing is our own independent authority that requires approval from the state legislature. So we would have to have sponsor a bill. We would have to pass a number of resolutions, but requires that the state legislature approve.
So there's a lot of steps, and a lot of information to gather, but I just wanted to do a word.
Any further questions? If you want. All right. Okay. Now, I think we have Mr. Roberts. It is your monthly report. You want to highlight there? Remember?
No, just everything's going good. We're still kind of where we need to be. We're get our anticipated revenue goals or whatever, right?
Okay, the next is your minutes report. Those locations, yours or?
They're mine. I highlighted them, and I think when I scanned them in, the scan copy was highlighted, covered the numbers up, so can't read it.
Okay,
So
that's what you're working.
I can't go back there. Sorry.
Your year-to-date actual 123,734.
Yep.
And your budget is 45.
Yep.
That's where you come up with the 58.
Yeah, we're only going to use our 58.5% of our. So we should do it well under.
Right, so we're going to be your packet. What is done on the units report. All right, next is this, you found another letter relative to the municipal rate costs for zoning enforcement services, right?
Yeah, that was just what I sent out, was September 29th, letter to all the municipalities, just let them know that. Give you that breakdown of list of services and what will be charged, and basically gave you a checklist of what types of reports and services that we would be continuing to do. So we would do so, and just give you literally a check, yes or no, on what you want or don't want. I have had a couple phone calls. I put this on the agenda today just to see if there was any questions about it. I did receive a few questions from a couple of towns. I had a call, which I assumed was going to happen from a few of the zoning officials. So this kind of puts your municipality kind of in a corner of you want to do this, pay for services or join the program. So they came in and wanted an explanation of what it was about. I didn't explain it. I did have a couple of municipalities send back a checklist of every one of these items checked out, which I assume would happen. I did explain a part of these services, if you choose not to do this, I'm not gonna have, control on withholding fees. So what I mean by that is typically right now when someone comes in and it's not a participating town, if they don't have their zoning permit in place, if they don't have their septic permit in place, I send those back to those agencies to get and obtain those permits prior to me releasing a building permit. That won't happen anymore. So if they come in and they have everything they need for the building permit, I issue. Whether or not they have a zoning permit, doesn't matter. So it used to be that way when I started with the building department. We put some other policies in place over the years because it's very confusing for an applicant to realize where they need to go or what other permits they need from multiple agencies sometimes before they come and see me to get their building permit. There is no law set in place, municipal agreements, there are policies that are written or adopted. Agree date on us with holding any permits for that, but you got to understand it's very confusing for an applicant if you don't have those things in place. We've learned to streamline that process over the years. We're performing some work for you behind the scenes to make sure that your part-time people are being notified so that the applicants can get their permits. But this kind is going to throw a wrench into things, and it's going to go back to some old ways that we changed a long time ago to help resolve a lot of that. We've done a good job streamlining the process and trying to do this at 100% levy neutral and not and implement things like this. It's going to change. It's going to change the playing field. And I'm telling the supervisors that call me. I'm telling the zoning officials to come and see me. This wasn't part of my plan. This was done to try to make this 100% levy neutral. It obviously could affect how we do it. I was hoping that we could stay with the 75-25. We were able to keep this within budget controls. We've been 4 years under budget. We're going to be under budget this year. We were full staff. There was no reason we won't be under budget again next year. So if you have any questions or concern on this, I would hope at the end of the year we could move back to the 75-25 and not do this, because I really don't want to. Leading it to 75-25 puts you in a position where you join when you want to. We still pick up those behind the services behind the scenes that are happening, and things flow along because of our networking capabilities at a higher level of government. So nothing will change. We've been doing a good job doing it. It's a good program. This is going to put some zoning officers pretty concerned about either losing their job or the town not getting what they need done. So it's my concern too. I don't want to see that happen.
So last month, you were supposed to send us a report of how much time, where you came up with the figures on the proposed IMA rates for the levy. So for town heck, I have not seen a report where you came up with $3,300 of expenses for me in the past year. So you had all that information.
Yeah,
You were gonna organize it. I didn't get it. I thought we went to that.
I sent out 2 letters, right? If you didn't get them, I can send it to you.
Okay, and that's why I had a question.
I sent it to all the clerks, so they all had it, so they can share it with you and your partner. But we did ask everybody.
Send it to the clerk? Why not send it to us?
I sent it right to your account, so you have a copy of it and your.
I didn't get it either.
Copy.
I've got a second letter, but it didn't give me the breakdown.
We emailed it all to all of us.
We do receive it, since, yes, and we expected it in our October meeting. Or October meeting. So I turned it over to the zoning officer, clearly understands that, services are out of our, that, if you need something, you should refer to this to know how much it's gonna cost. before you ask the question, you know. So. It's kind of what we got.
And I guess I would like clarification just for myself, when we received the second letter, my town board asked that I would ask you to come and do a presentation for the whole town board to explain it. That's what the assessors did before we went into that program, and I think it's going to be fair for the town board to do that. And more than welcome to come to our next town board meeting on that. And I guess, and there's something I'm gonna throw out there that, answer now, answer there, then is, some of the things you're explaining, or you said it had to be done before you issue the building permit. So I guess I want to make sure I understand that it's not what you should already, what your office is already doing, because you are our building code enforcement officer. You know, that is something that's required for that, and I need to see how it's separated on that, since it's gonna be two separate things, and I know we don't pay for the building code, because the whole county is separate. And I guess the other question too, for the town of Weathersfield, because you did the letter you received was the breakdown showing the different towns. But the town of Weathersfield has no zoning. So, I guess it's not my town, but I have a question on that.
Yeah, if you have a breakdown on the list, there's another report in there. There's several reports that get done on a lot of demographic information that gets sent to various different agencies. So even though you might not have a zoning law in place, you're still there's these other agencies. I'm gonna use an example. The New York State Census, they want to break down what happens as far as housing and square footage and construction and things like that. Different agencies want data broke down.
But the census, I think, is a county thing that has to be done.
Now when it comes to construction, land development or construction phases.
I look forward to seeing the breakdown for the town of Southern House.
Sure.
I just looked at the email. Yeah, I got an email from October 4th, which gives me the same information that's in the sheet attached today. But doesn't give me a breakdown of the hours you work at the town of Attica. To show me that you had so many permits, and you spent 2 hours on each one of them, or whatever you've done. Those numbers I never got.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I haven't seen.
It's not in the October 4th one. Was there another?
No, there was one after that came out. I was looking, I was just looking for it, I couldn't find it. But it showed how many hours for each report you had to do, and it was that checkoff list with how many.
That gives you.
If I'm receiving it correctly.
And just to be clear, the referrals to the county planning board are still low cost. Right.
It's a list of prolonged meeting.
Too late. Jackie did that.
In a situation like Weathersfield, there is no zoning. When they just walk in, someone just walk in and start building a house, and how's that work?
No, so it's still in Weathersfield, they still have to get building permit. So, even though,
So the building permit is issued by the town,
by you, the county.
the county.
Okay, yeah.
I'm assuming there's some kind of stipulations. Are there as far as building a house?
Yeah, so the town of Weathersfield joined in, because there is nobody exempt from enforcement on the state building code. You have to do that mandated, regardless if you have a zoning law in place or not.
So all the regulations that are associated with the state building code are enforced then by buildings and codes, correct? Correct, by your office, correct?
I think so.
And it
wouldn't be.
Zoning.
For town.
Where?
It shows how many hours
Those.
puts in.
For example, you know, you make a town and say, I want to put in
The
this.
one I have is
general one.
will tell you the minimum setback distances. Within the lot
The
line.
one I have is general,
However, this department will tell you specifically
it's not specific.
where the electrical lines need to be placed. We cannot have overhead lines. Where the, ground fault interrupters, all of that kind of stuff. And they will inspect it.
Each
The
general.
zoning department says.
What plan?
Where?
You put it up to the board, and but it has to have this much minimum distance. Can't be in the front yard, it's not in the backyard, so many feet from the lot lines. and so That's when we issue the zoning permit for that specific purpose. His department to tell the individual homeowner before they issue the building permit. Exactly how that.
What he said.
It's been on for 20 years. And now that we asked for the zoning department of the county, 011, now he's going to go back, change the playing field, do the goalposts, and wants to build towns for the zoning issues he's done.
No. He's, because this committee. Under your resolution, voted to make it levy neutral. Okay, so now you have non-participating towns. Who are going to be charged. For the specific services that they request. Okay. It wasn't in favor of that, but this committee was in favor. So it's only fair that if I'm gonna utilize some of those services for building and codes purposes, that he charges me for them.
5 years ago, before there was a countywide zoning program, he was doing that already. At his words, I was doing it for free, I was doing it so it's hard.
That's right.
But now we put the zoning program in here. Now he wants to be paid for that, or he wants his department to be paid for that. But it's changing the playing field.
You can have it both ways, right?
Well, I can't have it both ways. He got it both, he get it both ways. He didn't do it before, but now he wants to bill for it.
Well, yeah, receiving compensation from the town on the towns that were participating in the program. To make it levy neutral.
5 years ago, I was paying for it.
Get your ring here.
That water is under the bridge, my friend,
Okay, That's fine.
because this went through 2 committee cycles, and I think it went.
And I'm still waiting for the information to make my decision. Just like earlier in the year, when we talked about it, he changed the numbers to get it approved. That's my issue. We don't get the full story, we don't get our information, and yes, I'm making a statement again. I don't like the situation. I don't like the fact that we don't get all the numbers. I got my email right up here, Don, the last time I got an email from you was October 4th. Prior to that was September 30th, September 6th. On compensation. So. I don't know what's the other email or whatever went you, but I'm not finding it. I pulled up my history. So that's why I'm upset again, because we're talking about it, but I haven't got information from a month ago. So I can't make a decision, but I don't have the information.
My interpretation of the numbers that you sent out was that it was the historical average. For that particular item. So over the course of several years, this is the average amount of money that you spent for this particular request. It's not, based on last year or the year before, it's the historical average.
He says he's got all the information. Then show me the information. I don't want the number that's in front of me. Well, I want all the information. He did a building permit for X, Y, and Z.
If I'm reading it correctly, though, it's a generic, correct? You have a task.
Yeah.
And the task takes 1 hour and the dollar amount is $50. I am just
That's right.
So it wouldn't be specific to Attica, it wouldn't be specific to Middlebury or Genesee Falls. It would be for any municipality using it.
Well, how do we have a number? How do you have a number on this page? It says Attica has $3,300, 47, $3,347.57 worth of billable hours.
That's what you would have, that's what you spent from a historical perspective.
Where's the facts telling you that I spent that?
It's on that report, Brian. If you want me to continue all those reports, I'm gonna bill you for it. That is roughly about what you're gonna pay me at the end of the year.
And because
Right. That I understood.
Okay?
So last month, so we get the information to prove to me that Attica was using $3,300 worth of the zoning department's hours. You don't have that number. I have a generic representation of that. The same as I got a generic budget from him last year, and then he changed the numbers. So I'm sorry if I don't believe the numbers that are generic is shown here. I want the numbers that said somebody on Exchange Street got one and somebody over here on Nestor Road got one.
Mr. Chairman, I think in my grant, I asked for those numbers, I don't think with my budget. This is the unbudgeted expense. So I could see that's what we were really, specific for my town, that would be helpful.
So the way you would approach that, Becky, is the way we did it in Middlebury. I had so much for the zoning officer, that is a budget line, make the salary of that individual. However, the very next line is contractual expenses.
Right now,
Those contractual expenses include things like this,
I
where, and we increased our budget to accommodate potential for where that may occur. I didn't need exact numbers, but I used this sheet, said, okay, if I use everything that I used previously, I can spend $1,000 more. Okay, that's doable within the budget. And I wouldn't overcomplicate it, Brian, but that's the way I interpret it. And now your zoning officer in your town has the checklist in the sheet. So they're going through an application permit and you need to have any of these things done. That's what it's gonna cost. Whether you bill the applicant for that or you absorb it in your town, that's up to you.
So I'm getting no more information. I want to be clear. I'm either getting more information or this is all I got to go on.
That's the breakout. I don't know what else you want me to give you, Brad.
I don't know how to be more clear. I want to know the permits that you worked on in 2021 or 2020. I don't care, pick a year. That you spent $3,000 with the men, billable hours on for the town of Attica. You say you've done these, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know I don't know that on what reports you filed and what you've done for the town of Attica.
I can pull out any last year's annual report and hand it to you in the breakdown.
For the town of Attica or complete?
For every town, and every group. It's all.
So that last, I thought that's what I was getting at.
You're getting a breakdown.
This is generic. This is- got the- You gave me one number for the town of Attica.
Have fun.
Okay, we can take that out.
I'll take it up and I'll go somewhere. I'm very happy to go there.
And that's what I kind of was.
What? Okay. You got a couple of FYIs here, right?
Yep.
Just
we're at the new, zoning, program update, so we are. So. That's what we've seen so far.
It's actually more cost effective to go with the county program for us. That's why we chose to do that.
Okay, I'm anything else?
I do have, one other thing that's not on here, if I can get a motion to go into executive session, so we can talk about an employee.
I'm gonna deny that request. Because, we don't go into executive sessions for every employee who's making use of the EAP system. And there's potential HIPAA issues that can result from that. So I think, those conversations can occur in a more of a one-on-one type of discussion. But I also would suggest that we would have a HR director and the company attorney present for that conversation. And I think, and wait a week or so, when we may have a resolution. But I'm gonna say, let's hold on. You agree?
I agree, absolutely.
You agree? Okay, thank you. Anything else coming for the minute? Here, adjourned.
Like, we could go home tonight.
Yeah, I was thinking one of you vote.
Yes. Look at you, soccer.
And several minutes to go.
Thank you, sorry.